Hi everyone, it's Elaine Hamilton from the Reiki Center. In this video episode, we are going to look at peeling the onion, peeling out onion layers. It's a great analogy and it comes up a lot in personal growth. And I think actually it happens a lot in our Reiki healing journey as well. It's like for many of us, when we first come across Reiki, whether it's a Reiki 1 class or whether it's a Reiki healing, we notice a profound relaxation that happens, or maybe we notice some energy movement, or we get some kind of result. In general, if you remain interested in Reiki, you are getting some kind of result in the beginning, which is what makes you come back. And not everyone does. Some people might have a Reiki treatment or experience a Reiki attunement and feel nothing. And so they don't tend to come back for that, right? They'll be like, oh, that's nonsense, and then move on to something else. And that's absolutely fine. Reiki doesn't work for everybody. It's different things for different people. However, if you're watching this, then the chances are that Reiki did work for you in the beginning. Maybe it's still working for you. And so there is a natural progression. And this is actually the same for any spiritual or new age or personal growth modality that you take on. It's like you'll get some really good results, you get really interested in it, you do it quite dedicatedly, and then you kind of plateau. And then maybe you push through and get more results, or maybe what often happens is people go and look for other modalities or other things or more powerful things or different things in order to shift themselves onwards. And that's also perfectly fine. There isn't a best way to do it. There isn't the right way to do it. Some people jumping around and trying lots of different modalities at different times really works for them. And for other people, they notice that one modality or a couple will keep deepening for them. And obviously, as you know, for me, I feel that Reiki can take you all the way with other additions. So for me, Reiki has been my foundational spiritual growth tool, and I've noticed that it has held me very powerfully throughout my entire journey. 30, I was about to say 50 years, not quite that old, 30 over years, almost that old. And so my feeling is that there are many ways that you can continue to actively work with Reiki to help you deepen. The thing is to understand this idea of peeling the onion. So in the beginning, we can peel the onion and get some pretty dramatic results, because in general, when we first come to Reiki, we're all kinds of stressed and we're all kinds of unaware. So even for me, the idea that I can put my hands on my body and then experience a shift in focus inwards and therefore experience a deep relaxation was a massive aha moment for me, that I could relax my body at will and that I could experience a very deep feeling of inner peace was a massive aha moment for me, because I realized that actually inner peace is in my control. And so in the beginning, things like when my insomnia disappeared and I had a lot of progress around my stress levels, my worry, my ability to notice when I was stressed and therefore do my Reiki, and then I felt calmer. Things like this had a really major impact on me. And so for many of us in the beginning, the first couple of onion layers are dramatic and they're great. And they're like, oh my God, I've got rid of so for me, in the first year or two of doing Reiki, I got rid of my insomnia. I was sleeping much better. And of course, that had a massive knock-on effect in lots of other areas of my life. I also noticed my immune system improved a lot because I was less stressed. And so I was getting a lot less colds, a lot less flu. I was almost like immune. So when the flu went through the office, I didn't get it. So I was all feeling really chipper with myself. And in a sense, you get this feeling that Reiki is working really amazingly well. And then it's quite natural. Once you peeled off the easy layers, we then get into more of the difficult layers. And so for many of us, we can, rather than peel off another layer that is more painful, like the onion, as it gets closer to the core of ourself, actually, I feel, gets more protective. It's almost like we don't want to see the next layer. Let's just play around with the easy stuff. Let's not get too serious here about personal growth and really figuring out what's what. And often the deeper layers do challenge us to make life shifts. So, for example, if you are in a toxic relationship or you have a lot of unhealthy relationships around you, then if you are serious about personal growth, that means you're going to have to clean it up, right? And if you continue to do your Reiki, that's fine. You might, so it's up to you how you use Reiki. So Reiki is not going to ever force you or push you to do a certain thing because frankly, it's an inert energy. It doesn't care. You do what you want with it. It's like if you eat something really nourishing, it's not going to force you to stay healthy, right? I mean, your body just uses it up as nutrients. But if you continue bad habits, like it doesn't matter how good your diet is, if you're still smoking, it's not going to protect you from lung cancer, right? So our habits will always trump the Reiki. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter how much spiritual work you're doing, how much meditation you're doing, how much Reiki you're doing, if ultimately you're not looking at some really deep programming or deep belief systems, then you're not, like, the energy is not going to shift anything. Only you can shift it. So only you can look, for example, at a toxic relationship and go, actually, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, you have to make an action to leave the relationship. And so oftentimes when we peel the layer down to that kind of foundational action, where maybe you have to leave a job, you have to leave a home, you have to leave a relationship, you have to leave friendships, you have to put boundaries in place. It's amazing to me how many people would rather suffer than put a boundary in place. And this happens so much to empathic people. Like, you would literally rather. So I have people that I see that are in all kinds of bother. So they tend to be carers a lot of the time. They're caring for parents or loved ones or children or whatever. And they're running around like headless chickens, doing things because the person they're caring for, and this might not be a carer, like, you might not be, the person you're caring for might not be dependent on you. It might just be a life partner or something like this, or children who are in their 30s and still living at home, right? So this is not like life and death, whether you care for them or not. But there is this idea that putting a boundary in place, saying no, saying, actually, I don't have to come and drive you to the shops. You can get a taxi, things like this, or saying to your kids that are still at home, you know what, you need to pay rent now, or you need to leave. You need to go find your own place. It's so difficult for some people to put that simple and like realistic or permissible boundary in place that you're allowed when your kids are adults or when you're caring for somebody. You're allowed to put boundaries in place when there's an alternative. It's not like you're just saying to people, right, that's it. You're homeless or you're this or you're that. That you can put things in place that allow people their own growth. Now, they might not want to grow and they might get upset with you. But the point is if you're not willing to take those steps to do what needs to be done in order for you to reclaim your sense of inner peace or your authentic boundaries, around people, around events, around jobs, around anything, then you cannot expect the Reiki to work, because actually what you're asking for is for the situation to magically change. Like for your, let's say you're trying to get your kids out the door and they won't leave, then you're imagining that, okay, if I do lots of Reiki, if I send Reiki to the perfect resolution of my kids leaving, they'll magically just leave. They'll magically just see that they have to leave. But if you're not putting boundaries in place, maybe sometimes it does actually happen like that, that they suddenly like see the light because somehow the Reiki's loosened up something in them as well. But 9 times out of 10, when you get to that onion layer, it doesn't dissolve. Like you need to see it through. You need to build, because that's the lesson. The lesson is boundaries. Let's say we're talking about boundaries, right? The lesson is for you to claim your right to have boundaries. And I know that this can be a really, really difficult thing. And as I said, some people will prefer to suffer for decades than to put their boundaries in place. I have people who are suicidal, so they would rather die. They would literally rather die than put a boundary in place. That is just so extreme, and it's so tragic, that it comes to that lack of permission. So am I going off on a tangent? Maybe not. But it is all around this idea that, okay, when we get to a certain point, so once you've done the easy stuff with Reiki, and frankly, once you've done the stuff that you kind of knew you had to do anyway, and it's okay, and you're not really pushing your right to live your life, and you're not really expanding your sense of self-worth. You are, in a way, like if you sleep better, that's great. If you get less stress, if you have a better immune system, but you're not really touching on this there's like this core, really, really core belief that I think many of us hold, that we are somehow not worthy to take our place on the planet. And for many of us, we don't really feel like we belong on the planet. Like I felt this for many years. I still kind of feel it. Like I don't even know how I got here. Like, what am I doing here? When I was in my 20s, I was like, I think I'm an alien. I think I was just like beamed down here. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who these people are. Like, what the hell's going on? Now, I have to say, I still look at most people and think I'm definitely an alien, but I no longer struggle with taking my place. It's like, okay, I'm maybe an alien, so I might as well make the most of it. Okay, I'm an alien, but okay, no problem. Why, just because I feel like an alien, should I not take my place and take my space and expect a certain or have a certain permission to live my life the way I see fit? And for a lot of people, they are particularly empaths and highly sensitive people. It's like we've been trained to not take up space. And personally, I think a lot of that is childhood stuff, like the parents just never gave you space, never expected you to claim space, didn't like it when you took up space, got cross with you when you tried to take up space. And so there's a certain learned behavior here. But every human being has a right to live their life as they see fit. Every human being does. Now, you might not be allowed to in certain situations if you are actually in prison, if you are actually a refugee, if you are actually, I mean, obviously there are some extreme cases where people are not able to live life on their terms. But for most of us, probably if you're watching this video and you have access to internet and you have access to like freedom of information, then you are probably not one of those people. And so the boundaries that you're putting in place, a lot of those boundaries are actually self-inflicted, and you're putting them in place because you would rather not upset somebody. You would rather not take the hit of guilt or shame or disapproval. And honestly, when you get to a certain point with Reiki on your spiritual journey, you're going to have to turn and face all of that in order to claim your life, because the reason you're not doing it is a fear of those things. Now, doesn't matter how much Reiki, how much manifesting, how much sending, how much anything you do, you're not going to dissolve the relationships or the relationship ties around boundaries. You have to put the boundaries in. And so for many people, they get stuck at this. Like they do all they do all their own work. Like they clean up their health, they clean up their well-being, they clean up their thought patterns, their inner thought patterns, they clean up all of this kind of stuff, but they don't clean up their space, right? I'm allowed to take up this space and their time. I'm allowed to choose what I do with my time. Now, once you get there, that's quite deep in the onions, I think. So good job. It's kind of like, yes, you made it that far. That's amazing. And now it's kind of the really, really tricky part. And for a lot of people, they skirt around the outside of it. They do all kinds of other things. But if you notice, so if you're wondering, am I there or not? Like if you notice that a lot of your wishes for Reiki to work, when you say Reiki's not working, if a lot of them are around relationships or a lot of them around resentments about what people are wanting you to do, or if a lot of it is about this feeling of feeling trapped, like I feel trapped in this environment or with these relationships or in this family's dynamic or whatever it is, then you've hit that boundary point where you actually need to start taking up space, and you need to start reclaiming your right to your life on your terms. And so for a lot of people, they would rather not. And that's fine. That's fine. Like that's up to you, right? It's your life. You can do what you want with it. But just so that you know, if you're hitting that point, then yeah, that's a you problem. That's not a Reiki problem. Like it doesn't matter how much energy you have for that. If you're not going to steer the car in that direction, doesn't matter whether you got a full tank or not, right? If you don't want to go down that road, you don't want to go down that road. And so the Reiki is completely useless then. And so is every other healing modality, because that part of the healing journey, you have to take those steps yourself and you have to reclaim it yourself. No one else is going to give you your own right to your own life. No one else is going to give you that. You have to claim that. That's probably, yeah, it's just such a liberating part of the spiritual journey. Such a liberating part. It gives you the freedom, like so much freedom. And that's all I can really say about that. So if you are hitting that point, if you are at that point, then yeah, you've hit the juicy onion part. And when you peel it, there might be some tears. And it's bloody difficult and painful, and guilt and shame are such difficult emotions to work with. So I absolutely feel for you. And the only thing I can say is that even though guilt and shame seem to be, because they're probably the earliest, like the earliest really negative, horrible emotions we had to deal with as children. You know, the guilt and shame of doing something wrong or upsetting, disappointing people, right? It's just like, it's so difficult. But once you face it and once you really sit with it and examine it, not push it away and go, oh, I don't want to look at this, but actually sit there and examine it. Okay, this is how guilt feels. How does it feel in my body? Activate the senses. Where's the sensations? Where's the feeling? What other memories does it bring up? It might bring up a lot of memories of your childhood, right? The look on a parent's face. Like for me, I have this one memory that comes up whenever I feel shame, and that's something a very innocent remark I made, and my dad's face literally fell apart. And I thought, in that moment, I thought I was the worst person on the planet. And so when you have core memories like that, like self-hatred was born in that moment for me. And I was quite young. And so these are really, really core beliefs. You don't want to look at the like self-hatred. You don't really want to look at shame because it brings on those kinds of things. But then when you do, here's the thing, like when I really look at it, I have to say it still causes me pain, but I understand where it all comes from now. Because I look at that and I'm like, yeah, actually that was really difficult for me to see that. But ultimately, I didn't cause that, right? I was a child. And ultimately, you can't cause pain in somebody else like that. You can't cause suffering in someone else like that. Like that was really my dad's stuff. That wasn't my stuff. I was a kid, right, that didn't want to do something. And then from there, this idea of I'm so selfish. Why didn't I want to do that? I should have done that. And then the people pleasing began from there, that one moment. And then it just builds and builds and builds. And then you avoid more and more and more. So you don't have to feel that again. But actually, I would say, do feel it. Go straight back to that core memory if you find it, and just keep looking at it. Keep looking at it. It's kind of like, okay, I was a child and I just didn't want to do something. And it caused such a strong pain reaction. But that pain reaction is not my responsibility. It's really not. I was a child. And even now, if my actions, because I don't want to do something for somebody else, causes such a huge pain reaction in that person, it's still theirs. It's still their suffering. It's still their thought processes. I don't have to take care of that for them. And so really starting to look at these cores, these core beliefs, these core memories, these core reactions we had that go way back into our childhood, and see the innocence, our innocence, and the fact, okay, where does the responsibility of somebody else's suffering really lie? Does it really lie with you to take care of that for somebody else? Doesn't really. It's like it's for them to take care of. You take care of your own suffering. You take care of your own disappointment. You take care of your own inability to take no from somebody else. You take care of that. But a person is allowed to say no to a request. Anybody is allowed to say no to a request. And so you're allowed to say no to a request too. Was about the onion layers. I still think it's about the onion layers, you know? I still think that once you hit this, it's such a big breakthrough, especially for us empaths. It's such a great breakthrough to be able to say no and to feel it, and it gets easier, okay? So that's the other thing I would say is you marinate, you feel it, you get the core belief, you understand it. Then the next time you have to say no, it's like you get the same emotional response, but you're more familiar with it. It's like, it's okay. I've seen this before. It's uncomfortable, but I can look at it again. And you look at it again and again, and you say no again and again. And every time you do it, it gets easier. And then you get to the point, and it doesn't take that long, I don't think. You get to the point where saying no is as easy as saying yes. Makes no difference. That's freedom, right? That's freedom right there, because then you choose when you do things for others. I still do lots of things for others. I still have lots of people that I put and prioritize in my life. But if I don't want to do something, I don't do it. And so therefore I feel I have choice. And so I don't feel resentful and I don't feel trapped. And I don't feel my life is just at the beck and call of other people and I have no life. I don't feel any of that stuff. But that's not because they woke up and went, oh my gosh, we're taking advantage of you. No, it's because I started saying no. And that's really important for you to understand. Other people are not going to change no matter how much Reiki you send to it. They're not going to change. You're the one that has to put these things into place. So good luck with that part. And if you are at that part, congratulations, because you're almost there. You're almost there. Do it. Keep going. It's great. So good luck with everything. And yeah, take your life. It's really worth it. Lots of love. Lots of love. Bye.